Why are you leaving me when I need you most? Mark's voice trembled as he struggled to sit upright in his wheelchair. Amanda stood by the doorway, arms folded, her face cold. Because I can't carry your burden forever, Mark. I need someone strong, someone whole, and you are none of that. Welcome to Tales by Amah, where stories change lives. Please like, share, and subscribe to encourage us to keep bringing you amazing stories. Mark used to be the kind of man who turned heads, not just because of his looks, but because of his spirit. Always the first to help, the first to smile, the first to make everyone laugh. He met Amanda on a rainy afternoon in Lagos traffic. She was stranded, her car broken down, and he, drenched but cheerful, stopped to help. That small moment became a story they would tell for years. They dated for 2 years, then married in a small but beautiful ceremony. Life was good. But life also changes. It was on a Sunday evening, the kind when everything feels perfect. Mark was on his way home from the market, humming to a gospel song on the radio, when a speeding bus ran a red light and crashed straight into his car. Everything went black. When Mark opened his eyes again, he was in the hospital. Tubes ran in and out of his body. His legs felt like they didn't exist. Amanda sat by his side, holding his hand. She was crying and smiling and praying and promising, "You'll be fine, baby. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." But days passed, then weeks, then months. Mark wasn't getting better. The doctors said the spine damage was severe. He might never walk again. They said might, but it felt like never. Amanda tried. She really did. At least in the beginning. She cooked, cleaned, helped him bathe. She cried with him when the pain was too much, laughed with him when he tried to joke through the dark moments. But her smiles started to fade, and her laughter no longer reached her eyes. One morning, while helping Mark into his wheelchair, Amanda sighed deeply. Mark noticed. "Are you tired?" he asked softly. She didn't reply at first. Then she forced a smile. "I'm okay. Just didn't sleep well." But she wasn't okay. Not really. Mark began to feel like a burden. He could no longer surprise her with breakfast in bed, couldn't pick her up for fun dates, couldn't even go to the bathroom without help. The next day, Jonah came. Jonah was Mark's childhood friend. Strong, tall, confident. He used to joke that he and Mark were brothers born from different mothers. When he walked in with a bag of food and a cheerful voice, Amanda lit up. Mark noticed. Jonah became a regular visitor. He'd help Mark with exercises, help around the house, and crack jokes to ease the tension. But slowly, the conversations between Amanda and Jonah grew longer. The whispers turned into laughter. The eye contact lingered. Mark noticed. Again. One day, as Mark sat alone in the living room, he heard Amanda's voice from the kitchen. She was on the phone. "I can't take it anymore, Jonah. I'm tired of pretending. He's not the man I married." Mark froze. That night, he didn't ask her anything. He didn't cry. He just stared at the ceiling while Amanda lay beside him, turned away, scrolling through her phone. In the morning, Amanda dressed up more than usual. "Where are you going?" Mark asked. "To see a friend." Jonah, of course. Mark didn't stop her. He just nodded. He knew, and knowing hurt more than the pain in his back. That evening when she returned, Mark had cooked dinner by himself for the first time. He had burnt the rice. The stew was too salty. But he tried. Amanda didn't touch the food. "I'm not hungry," she said, pulling off her earrings. Mark looked at her for a long time, then finally asked, "Amanda, do you still love me?" She paused, then whispered, "I don't know." That night Mark wept, silently, bitterly, alone. The next few days were quiet, tense. Amanda barely spoke to him. Jonah visited more. Sometimes Amanda laughed so loud with him that it echoed through the house. Mark began to feel like furniture, present but unnoticed. One afternoon, Jonah came when Mark was asleep. But Mark wasn't sleeping. He heard them. He heard everything. He heard the kiss. He heard the giggle. He heard Amanda say, "He doesn't even know. He's just stuck." The next morning, Amanda didn't come into the room. By noon, she returned with a suitcase. "I'm leaving, Mark," she said. He turned to face her slowly. "I can't live like this anymore," she continued. "I need a life. I need love." He didn't argue. He didn't cry. All he said was, "I hope you find what you're looking for." As she rolled the suitcase out, Mark watched through the window. A tear slid down his cheek. But he didn't stop her, not because he didn't love her, but because sometimes love means letting someone go, even if it breaks you. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Amanda's perfume still lingered in the hallway. Her hairbrush sat untouched on the dressing table. Her slippers were still under the bed. But she was gone. And now it was just Mark. The silence screamed louder than any words. At first, Mark thought maybe she would come back. Maybe she just needed space. Maybe Jonah was just a temporary distraction. Maybe she still cared. But as days passed, and no calls came, no messages, no knock on the door, reality hit. She wasn't coming back. Mark sat in his wheelchair, staring at the window every day, watching the sun rise and fall, watching the neighbors laugh and live. He felt like a ghost in his own house. One morning, he struggled to get out of bed. There was no one to help him. He tried to slide onto his wheelchair but missed and crashed onto the cold floor. He lay there for hours. Tears streamed down his face, not just from the pain, but from the helplessness. That day, something inside him broke. Not just sadness. Anger. Anger at Amanda, at Jonah, at life, at himself. But when the anger passed, only one thing remained: determination. That evening, Mark pulled himself up using the edge of the bed. His arms trembled, his fingers shook, but he made it. He sat on the edge of the mattress, breathing hard, drenched in sweat. And then he whispered to himself, "I will not die like this." Every day after that he made a little plan. Wake up, make the bed, roll to the kitchen, try to cook, clean, move, even when it hurt, especially when it hurt. He called a therapist from the hospital. She was kind. Her name was Grace. She agreed to come twice a week and help him begin movement therapy. "Your body may be weak," she told him, "but your willpower is stronger than most I've seen." Mark didn't smile. He just nodded. He wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone anymore, just to himself. Meanwhile, Amanda and Jonah were building a new life. They had moved to a different part of town. A small apartment, but decorated nicely. Amanda thought she would finally be happy again. No wheelchairs, no medications, no responsibility. Just freedom, just love. But love doesn't grow on betrayal. At first, things were smooth. Jonah was playful, charming, and exciting. But then, slowly, he started to change. He'd come home late. He stopped texting her during the day. He flirted openly with other women. Amanda noticed. But she had no one to complain to. She had burned her bridge. One night, they had a fight. Amanda accused him of cheating. Jonah laughed in her face. "You left a crippled man for me, Amanda. What makes you think I can't do better than you, too?" She froze. Those words stung more than she expected. "You think I'm special because I took you in?" he added. "You're just a woman who ran. If you could abandon your husband, you can abandon anyone." That night, Amanda cried alone in the kitchen. She tried to call her mother, but her mother didn't answer. She tried to text her old friends, but they had all picked Mark's side. None of them replied. She was alone, just like she left Mark. Back in his small home, Mark was learning how to live again. He could now roll himself around with ease. His hands had grown stronger. He cooked better, slept better, even started writing. Grace introduced him to online work, virtual customer service. It paid small, but it felt like a fresh beginning. Every now and then, Mark would think about Amanda. He missed her laugh, her hugs, her smell. But he didn't miss the weight of her disappointment. One morning, during therapy, Grace asked him, "Mark, what's your biggest goal?" He looked at her, his voice low but clear. "I want to walk again, even if it's just one step. I want to prove to myself that I'm not finished." Amanda, meanwhile, was growing thinner. Jonah had started coming home drunk. Once, he even raised his hand to her. She packed her bags that night and left, with no job, no money, and nowhere to go. She returned to her old neighborhood, but Mark's house looked different. New paint, flowers in front, laughter inside. She peeked through the gate and saw him in the living room, talking with Grace and 2 other visitors. He was smiling, still in a wheelchair, but brighter, stronger. She turned and walked away, tears falling freely. Amanda slept in a friend's store that night, alone, cold, ashamed. And Mark? He sat on his couch, a book in his hand, and whispered to himself, "God, thank you for the pain. Without it, I would never have found this strength. Just lean forward slowly. Good. Now pull your left leg just a little. Yes." Grace's voice was calm but excited. Mark was drenched in sweat, gripping the metal bar in front of him like his life depended on it. His arms trembled, his knees buckled, but he didn't fall. He was standing. For the first time in almost a year, tears rolled down Mark's face. He wasn't walking yet, but he was standing. That alone felt like a miracle. Grace clapped excitedly. "This is progress, Mark, real progress." "We're getting there," Mark chuckled through his tears. "If Amanda could see me now." Then he paused. It wasn't bitterness, just realization. She was no longer part of this journey, and that was okay. Over the next few weeks, Mark pushed harder. Each day he stood a little longer. Then came tiny steps. Just 2 at first, then 5, then 10. He still needed help, still leaned on crutches, but the impossible was becoming possible. He began sharing his progress on social media. A page called From Wheels to Feet. People from all over began following him. Some sent kind messages, some sent money. A woman from Abuja even offered him a job managing her online store. Mark accepted. He was rebuilding self-confidence. Physically, emotionally, financially. Meanwhile, Amanda was sinking deeper into struggle. After being rejected by every friend she had, she moved into a single room behind a small hair salon. She got a job sweeping the place in the mornings and assisting with customers in the afternoon. Every night she lay on a thin mattress, staring at the ceiling. "How did I end up like this?" she often asked herself. No answers came. One hot afternoon, while buying bread, she overheard 2 women talking. "That guy who used to be in a wheelchair. Mark? I heard he's walking small now. The one his wife left when he had the accident." Amanda froze. The other woman added, "She will regret it, Shah. See how God is lifting him." Amanda dropped her bread and walked away. That night, curiosity got the best of her. She searched for his name on Facebook. She found the page. From Wheels to Feet. Her eyes widened as she scrolled. Photos of Mark standing, smiling, walking with support. Videos of him encouraging others with disabilities. Thousands of likes and comments. Mark was doing well, without her. She typed a message. Hi, Mark. I just wanted to say I'm proud of you. Then she erased it. Then typed again. Can we talk? She hesitated. Tears filled her eyes, but she hit send. Mark saw the message the next morning. He stared at it for a long time. He didn't feel angry. He didn't even feel nervous. He felt nothing. He replied with one sentence, "There's nothing left to talk about, Amanda." She stared at the screen. The words hit her harder than she expected. She cried for hours that day, not because of rejection, but because deep inside she knew she had lost something good, and she had lost it by her own hands. A week later, Mark visited a secondary school to speak to students about resilience. He walked up to the podium, slowly but confidently. The students clapped. One girl raised her hand. "Sir, what made you keep going when life got hard?" Mark smiled. Pain. She followed behind him slowly, then called out, "Mark!" He turned. She swallowed hard. "I'm sorry." He looked at her for a long time, then said softly, "I forgave you a long time ago, Amanda, but I've also moved on." Amanda stood there as he walked away, strong, healed, and moving forward. She wiped her tears. For the first time, she knew what true regret felt like, not just sorrow, but knowing you let go of someone who would have stayed, even when everything else failed. Back at home, Mark made himself a simple dinner. As he sat to eat, he looked around the house. Clean, bright, peaceful. He whispered, "Thank you, Lord." I didn't need her back, I just needed myself back. And with that he took his first full step without any crutch. The sun was setting, casting a warm orange glow through the windows of Mark's house. He stood in the living room, one hand on the wall, the other free. No crutch, no wheelchair, just him. Step by step, he walked toward the mirror. His legs shook, but he didn't stop. He made it. And when he looked at his reflection, he didn't see a broken man. He saw a survivor, a fighter, a man who rebuilt himself from the ground up. That evening, his phone buzzed again. "Amanda, please, just 5 minutes. I just want to talk in person." Mark stared at the message. He didn't want to be rude, but he had to protect his peace. He replied, "I wish you healing, but I'm not your home anymore." That night, Amanda sat outside the small salon where she now worked, hugging her knees. The night was cold. She stared at her phone, reading his message again and again. "I'm not your home anymore." It stung. Because it was true. She had walked away, and the door had closed for good. Meanwhile, Mark had begun sharing his story on podcasts and radio interviews. People wanted to hear about the man who was abandoned in a wheelchair and stood again. He spoke simply, humbly. "What happened to me didn't destroy me. It introduced me to a better version of myself." His following grew, his income grew, his joy grew. He bought a new, bigger house. Nothing too fancy, just fresh and full of light. He even adopted a little dog named Milo. Small, stubborn, and loyal. "Like me," he said, laughing. But one thing Mark didn't expect was how women started showing interest. His inbox was full of compliments. "You're so inspiring. God bless you for your strength. Your story moved me." "Are you single?" Mark smiled at the attention, but he was cautious. He wasn't in a hurry to love again. He wanted someone who would stay, even when life gets hard, not just someone drawn to his success. One day, during a community outreach for disabled persons, he met Adowara. She was volunteering, helping arrange food packages. Beautiful, soft-spoken, genuine. She didn't know who he was until someone introduced them. She looked him in the eye and said, "You're brave, Mark. Not just because you stood up, but because you didn't let bitterness win." He smiled. That sentence stayed with him all day. Adiora didn't chase him. She didn't throw herself at him. She just showed up. Steady. Kind. Warm. Weeks passed, and they started spending time together. Quiet walks, evening prayers, laughter-filled dinners. Mark found something he thought he'd never feel again: peace with someone else. Meanwhile, Amanda was still stuck. After weeks of silence from Mark, she stopped messaging. She knew he had moved on, but the weight of her choices haunted her daily. One evening, while cleaning the salon, she heard two girls whispering. "That woman, she's the one that left her husband after the accident. Imagine! And now he's a big man." She missed her blessing. Amanda pretended not to hear, but tears burned behind her eyes. She began attending church again, sitting at the back. One day, the pastor preached, "Sometimes God removes people from your life to bless them without your interference." Those words hit like thunder. Amanda realized Mark's growth began after she left. She hadn't been his helper. She had been his weight. One rainy afternoon, Amanda walked to Mark's old house. A stranger opened the gate. She turned away. The chapter was closed. Back at his new home, Mark sat with Adora in the garden. She poured him a cup of zobo and smiled. "How do you stay so calm?" she asked. Mark looked up at the sky and said, "Because I know what chaos feels like, and I survived it. Nothing after that scares me." Adiora reached for his hand. He let her. That evening, Mark posted on his page, "Healing is painful, but staying broken is worse. When someone walks away, don't chase. Sometimes their absence is the beginning of your elevation." Amanda saw the post. She didn't cry this time. She whispered to herself, "He's right." She finally began focusing on herself. Really this time. She started taking hair courses online, saved her small earnings, stopped blaming, started rebuilding. It wasn't easy, but it was honest. Back in Mark's world, peace reigned. The man in the wheelchair now ran small distances in the park. He laughed more, slept deeper, loved wiser. He had walked through fire and came out refined. And this time, he wasn't looking back. "Mark, are you sure you're ready for this?" Adeora's voice was soft but curious. She sat beside him on a park bench, watching the sky change from gold to grey. Mark smiled. "For the first time in a long time, yes." "I'm ready." She nodded, squeezing his hand. Tomorrow, Mark was going to speak at a national conference in Abuja, live on TV. It would be the biggest platform of his life. But he wasn't nervous. He had been broken, humiliated, abandoned, forgotten. He had already survived worse. That evening, Mark sat in his living room going through his speech. Milo, his dog, curled up at his feet. On the table beside him lay a picture frame. It wasn't Amanda. It wasn't Adora. It was himself. A photo from months ago, in a wheelchair, eyes tired but determined. He kept that photo there as a reminder. Never again will I forget what I've survived. Meanwhile, Amanda stood in the corner of a local barber shop, braiding a little girl's hair. The owner had let her rent the corner for a small fee. It wasn't much, but she was trying. After the girl left, Amanda sat alone and opened her notebook. Inside were goals: save for tools, open my own shop, finish the online course, pay for my brother's school fees. They were small dreams, but they were hers. She flipped to a blank page and wrote, "Day 1 of doing things the right way." For the first time in a long time, she wasn't thinking about Mark. She was thinking about Amanda. The next day, the entire country watched as Mark took the stage. He wore a black suit, No cane, no wheelchair. He walked slowly, steadily, with confidence. The hall went silent. "My name is Mark Edom," he began, "and I used to believe my life was over." He told them about the accident, the pain, the abandonment, the silence that followed, then the healing, the crawling, the standing, the walking, and now, the living. You don't need everyone to believe in you. Sometimes you just need to believe in yourself and take one painful step at a time. The room erupted in applause. Backstage, reporters lined up to speak with him. A popular TV host asked, "What would you say to the woman who left you?" Mark smiled and looked straight at the camera. "I'd say, thank you." The host blinked. "Thank you? Yes. Because if she hadn't left, I would have leaned on her instead of standing on my own. Her absence made room for strength." That evening, Amanda watched the speech on a neighbor's phone. She froze at those words. Her absence made room for strength. A deep silence filled her heart. She closed her eyes and said quietly, "I set him free by leaving, and I trapped myself." 2 months passed. Mark became a national voice for rehabilitation. He started a foundation for accident survivors. Adiora remained beside him. Not loud, not flashy, just present. She never asked about Amanda. She respected the past, but she was focused on the future. One quiet Sunday, after service, Mark turned to her and said, "Let's start a new chapter." Adiora smiled. "With you, every day feels like one." Amanda had also made progress. She opened a tiny salon by the roadside. Just 3 chairs and a mirror, but all hers. She was focused now, humbled, wiser, alone, but healing. One morning, Mark drove past her shop. He didn't stop, but he smiled when he saw the sign, "Amanda's Touch." He whispered, "I hope she finally found what she was looking for." Then he drove on. Later that year, Mark and Adiora had a quiet wedding at a garden by the no crowd, just family and joy. As he held her hand and said, "I do," he looked back just once. Not with regret, but with gratitude, because the worst thing that happened to him led him to the best thing that ever happened to him. Moral of the story: sometimes people leave you when you're at your worst. Let them. They're not part of your future. Don't beg, don't cry for too long. Use the pain, grow, and when you finally rise, let them watch. The end. Please subscribe for more amazing stories like this one, only on Tales by Amah. See you on the next story. Bye for now.